Hi, welcome back to a brand new video of the Targeted Individual Program, Targeted Experience. I got here this morning, you know, and of course, Pam standing around because she wants to see if I'm going to upload my video, right? So, you know, she's like, "Oh, how come you didn't call? I usually wait, I usually get a text from you or call from you." I said, listen, I woke up, I saw the time, my alarm, right? I have alarm set for 7:30, 7:45, 8 o'clock, 8:15, and 8:30. But my 7:30, 7:45, 8 o'clock alarm didn't go off. It didn't go off at all. But my 8:15 went off. So I'm thinking, okay, it's usually, at 7:30, I'm like, okay, I still have 15 minutes before my next alarm go off. And then at 7:45, when my next alarm go off, then, I'm up, right? But because those alarms didn't go off, when my alarm went off at 8:15, I'm thinking, okay, it's 7:30. So at 8:30, my second alarm went off. My 8:30 alarm went off, I should say. Um, I got up and I looked at the time. I'm like, oh shoot, it is 8:30, right? But there's a reason why they did that, right? So now the number 15 is in play, right? You say the number 15 is in play. So they manipulate things. Again, talk about what is called mystical manipulation, right? It is to do things using technology, using covert psychological means, using covert operation, to which you, the victims, or the victim, and the victims, don't understand what's going on. And particularly when you have a believer's mindset, you kind of associate it with it being supernatural, right? I can tell you, movies will sometimes let you know what it is that they're doing. It's just that you're not conscious about it. You're not aware, right? So anyway, so as I uploaded my video, the first video I uploaded, all of a sudden she's like, "Oh, Alyssa didn't bathe last night." So I'm like, "What you mean she didn't bathe last night?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I called you last night, minutes to 11, and I said to you, if you are not," and she was still cooking. So at 11 minutes to 11 o'clock, she was still cooking. Okay, she went out at 7 o'clock to go to the grocery store. She didn't come back until like an hour later. All right. So when she came back, I told my daughter, I said, "Go take a bath." She was like, "No, I gotta wash her hair, so I'll do it later." I get home, right, at and I called her at uh, like I said, probably about 10:40, 10:40, yeah, about 10:40, and I said to her, I said, "Did Alyssa Bay? Did you wash her hair?" She was like, "No, I'm still cooking." I'm like, "What do you mean you're still cooking? It is minutes to 11, right?" So anyhow, she gets upset. She's like, "Don't tell me what to do," and this and that, and I'm like, so let me give you guys a little bit of expand this a little bit more. Uh, when I Sunday, I told my daughter to go take a bath. Her mother was like, "No, I will. I gotta wash her hair." Right now, mind you, because I asked her Sunday, I said, "Did you bathe after I left?" Because Saturday, I said to her, "Go bathe also." All right, before I left, so she didn't take a bath. Sunday, she didn't take a bath. Right when I was leaving, I said to her, "Go take a bath." And I was like, "No, I gotta wash her hair and such and such." And I told her, I said, "Pamela, let her go take a bath." "Well, I gotta wash her hair." I said, "You're not going to do wash her hair, right? You're still taking the braids out of her hair. How are you gonna? How are you? Because again, I know Pam. I know her mindset. I know how she is. And every time I try to give her constructive advice, she ignores it, and I always end up for the most part being right. I shouldn't say always, but for the most part, 98% of the time, I'm right. Particularly when it comes to her, right, and what she does with the kids. And I said, "Pamela, you're always doing things based on your convenience, while inconveniencing your children, right? And the things that you do, right, have a greater negative impact on your children as opposed to your inconvenience." Okay, because she could have taken a bath and you could have washed her hair afterwards, right? Or at least you know that she's bathing, so that way if you don't wash her hair, you know that she's bathing. But anyhow, so when I was yesterday, I said, "Alyssa, go and take a bath." No, I'm going to. I gotta wash her hair or whatever. I said, oh, you know what, whatever, fine. I said, it's ridiculous that our daughter didn't bathe. The last time she bathed was Friday, right? And the reason why she hasn't been bathing the past couple of days is because her mother uh, prevented her from bathing when I tell her to go bathe, right? But because she has to wash her hair, which she never does, which she never does, right? Not she never does, but which she didn't do. Um, and so, like I said, I called her last night. I said, "Hey, did Alyssa bathe?" No. I said to her, "Did you wash her hair?" No, I'm cooking, and got all upset with me and hang up the phone. Bye, 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 bye. I'm like, whatever, Pamela, whatever. So I got here. Like I said, I'm talking to her, right? Uh, uh, you know, I'm trying to get Ethan was still up. She's like, oh, I had to make Ethan breakfast. I'm like, okay, so why you got to mention that to me? That's your son. You're here. Okay, I'm running late. You make him breakfast. But this is, again, when you look at cursive persuasion programming, what they do, again, part of that is to manipulate you, to try to set you up and entrap you so they can have you under some involuntary servitude. This is what they're doing. Hitting your predator department using the sirens. Okay, as I'm exposing all this shit, I'm showing you guys. Like I said, I'm very well documented. I'm going to continue to document because it is my purpose to expose them. They can do whatever they want to do. I'm just one person. Okay, I am just one person. All right, but I'm one person with a purpose that's greater than theirs. All right, because I'm on the side of goodness. Anyhow, so after I uploaded the video, because I see her looking at my phone, that sort of thing that she does, and then the New York Predator Department using I said, look, and the New York Predator Department using a sirens in the background. So I uploaded the video. Just to, I was going to do it later, but I said, let me see what's going to happen. So I upload the video. Then she says to me, "Oh, Alyssa didn't bathe last night." Like, no, you prevented her from bathing last night. It's not that she didn't bathe last night. Then she goes, "Oh, what I told her to go take a bath." I said to her, "I don't believe you because I called you minutes to 11, asked you if she took a bath. You got upset with me saying that you got to wash your hair. You're going to wash her hair, but now you're trying to tell me that you told her to go take a bath." And she was like, "Well, she went to sleep." I said, "Yeah, because it's going on 11. She's tired." Like I keep telling, I said to her, I keep telling you, you have to understand how you do things out of convenience for you, even though it doesn't make sense in your mind. I mean, it makes sense in your mind, but it doesn't make sense in the real world because it doesn't end up working out how you intended it to work out, right? Because you want to do all of this stuff, and you do things late. You do things late because you're paying attention to everybody else except for your children. That's what you're doing. So I said to her, I said, "Listen, I said, look, so then, I had to raise my voice a little bit because it does, get you upset. But you're telling this person, who you have children with, and every time you try to correct certain behaviors within your children, the other parent, the female, and the mother interferes, right? So when the children were younger, sitting them down, making sure they're doing the homework, helping them with their homework, right? If they don't want to do their homework, they're crying. The mother's like, "Oh no, I can't take this noise. You gotta go. You gotta go. I'll help them over the weekend do their homework. I will do it. I will help them study." And then the weekend come and I'm calling like, "Hey, did you help them do their homework?" "Oh, I was busy. You know, I work all weekend. I need to rest on the weekdays." But yet you can go out on a date. You could leave these children by themselves the majority of the day, all night, right? All night. And then when they start to, as they get older and they start to exhibit certain uh, behavioral traits, right? Like staying up all night, right? Like not being able to study, right? That not clean after themselves, and then you go put them in therapy, but you still don't change your behavior. And the reason why they're in therapy is because directly because of your behavior, right? So she's so she so I said to her, I said, you put these kids in therapy, but your ass need therapy. And I've been telling you this for years, for over a decade, to go get therapy. Oh, and then she tried to put it on me. Oh, it's my fault the kids are in therapy. I'm like, oh, really? How is that? How, how is that? Because I raise my voice when they don't listen. When I got to talk to them 3 and 4 times because you don't listen. Hmm? When I leave and I said to them, go to bed, but they're up all night because you're sleeping in your bedroom. You don't give a damn. I call you and I say, hey, can you go check to make sure the kids are sleeping? And you tell me okay. And I call you back 15 minutes later and you tell me that you went back to sleep. So that was more important than making sure that our children get to bed on time. So now, in the morning, when time for you to take them to school or get them ready for school, and they're in bed, tired, sleeping, and you're having difficulty, and then you have to leave because you put your job in front of your children, right? That you leave them home, and then you want to call me and then be like, hey, the kids are home. Can you come over and watch them? When you tell me to leave, you know what I'm saying? Whenever I'm trying to help them do their homework, whenever I'm trying to put them to bed and they're up, whenever you hear me raise my voice at them because you can't take it, because you grew up without a father, right? Because you don't understand how men are, right? Because your mother uh, made you the second parent to your younger brother, right? Your mother dumped you off to her family members while she got having her fun party, what have you, right? This is, and again, I like I said, as black people, I don't blame us. Not 100%. I blame this system, white supremacy, white supremacists, for 90% of our condition. Right? Yes, even our own personal condition, 90% is white supremacists. And until you understand how they use all aspect of our lives to manipulate, to deceive, to profit off of, right? Then until you understand that, like I said, then you won't understand white supremacy, as Neely Fuller said. But anyway, right? So now, when I leave, the kids know that their mother's in the bedroom sleep. But they already know that she's in the bedroom sleeping. She's not going to get up. She's not going to come check on them. There are times when she goes out all day and all night, and I'm calling the kids, 6, 7 times to make sure that they're okay. And I'm asking them, hey, did you hear from your mother? No. But now all of a sudden now, and this is how these women are. Let me tell you, my brothers, that when they find a man that they're interested in, even though he's using them as just for sex, because of their mindset, but they're oblivious to it because, again, it is their conditioning. It is their conditioning. Why do you think I consider myself fortunate to have kids? Okay, because not too many brothers have children. Not too many men have children, right? Because women are attracted when you're younger. You have that drive. They're attracted to that, right? They're attracted to that. So I was very fortunate to have kids. Okay, because we know the vast majority of black men in the black community don't have any children, meaning that the majority of the women are sleeping with 20% of the men. So if you're tall, you're good looking, you're young, you have drive, most likely, and again, there's only a small percentage of men who are over 6 feet tall, and so forth. There's like a small percentage of men in every ethnic group who make 6 figures, right? It's not the majority. But women have been conditioned, particularly our women, have been conditioned to think that there's a large percentage of men that's making over 6 figures, right? When you go to any community, whether it's the black community, the white community, Asian community, what have you, and you will see women who you may consider to be very unattractive, they have kids. They have kids, right? And then some of them have kids with men who are tall, who they consider to be who they are very attracted to, right? So there's only a small percentage of men who may not be what woman a woman ideal type, right? That may uh, that will have kids, right? And it's usually they'll have kids because what? Either because they have good jobs, right? But those women don't really want them per se, right? They sleep with them because we're human beings. We have our sexual appetite, right? It's part of our nature. That's who we are, and particularly as men, men are hardwired to reproduce. Okay, so within the society, there's rules set to where you know that don't that men are not supposed to be having all these kids by different women, right? And yes, they do, they do, but that's just a small percentage of people, right? Like for me, I have two mothers to my children. My oldest, who's 24, and uh, with Pam, right? The mother of my two youngest. Okay, but here's the difference, right? I did not end the relationship; they ended the relationship. And the reason why is again because I am a targeted individual. So they deliberately, covertly, using psychological operations, covert operations, to manipulate me as well as them also. So I understand that. This is why, like I said, this also like I don't walk with for my children. When my oldest son, his mother sent him out the country for a whole month, didn't even tell me. You know what I'm saying? They know how to use the system. They know how to engage in manipulation because there are those who work within the court system as well as those within law enforcement working together, right? Forming their little cults to manipulate women and abuse women, right? But then they'll try to say, well, he's abusive because he's trying to tell you, some things, and he's trying to tell you what to do. I'm like, listen, I've never. And here's the funny thing too. Like I said, in America, particularly the black community, we are deluded in the reality, right? Uh, we are conditioned to ignore the violence of our women against us, right? And again, just a small percentage of black men in the black community are violent towards women, right? But in women's mind, they've been conditioned to believe that the vast majority of black men are violent to them, when the reality is that the vast majority of them are violent towards black men. That's the reality. And in all ethnic group, women are the ones who initiate physical violence during an argument, and the men either trying to protect himself, trying to push her away, in which again a man's strength, so she may fall down, hit something, or he may you know um, move his hand a certain way and she might get hit, right? But they will arrest him instead of her. Look at the Sakari Richards situation. She's in public. She is in public beating her boyfriend, assaulting him, right? I can show you videos of women using their vehicle to run down their boyfriend in an attempt to kill them because they got upset. There was a woman who, again, having an argument, jumped into her car, killed an elderly white dude because she was upset. Right? The other videos where you see young black women smashing into their boyfriend's car, driving their car, smashing their boyfriend's car. And again, this society understands how to manipulate women because what? Women are their cash cow. Women spend the most. Beauty, uh, uh, um, here, uh, uh, partying, dining, traveling, right? This is what second wave feminism was all about. It wasn't about empowering women, right? It was about liberating them sexually, right? It was about flooding the job market with women so that they can be used as high spending consumers. You think I'm kidding? Let's look at this way. Black women, okay, are one of the least paid group of women in America. Probably the least paid, next to Hispanic women, right? But Hispanic women don't spend the tens of billions of dollars that black women spend on weaves and wigs. Hispanic women don't are not the biggest consumers of luxury items. It is the women who don't make a lot of money, salary I should say, that are taking out loans to buy Birkin bags, to buy Gucci bags, Louis bags, right? Putting themselves in debt. And here's the thing: when I talk about white liberals and their agenda and how they manipulate black women, so you have these black women. Oh, yeah, we are the most educated. You're not the most educated. That's a lie. That's a lie. All right. Oh, we are the most entrepreneurs. Again, yeah, you might be the most entrepreneurs, but how many successful businesses that black women earn, that black women own, that employ other people other than themselves? Hmm? They don't tell you that, right? Right? They don't tell you the amount of businesses, startup business by black women, and how many of them fail. That's You're talking about a failure rate of over 90%. Okay? Over 90% within the first 2 years. Right? Then on top of that, they have now become the number one owners of debt in terms of college loan, right? Housing loan, right? Because a lot of them will go buy a house, right? Lose their job, and within a few months, the bank repossess their homes. I keep telling you that you gotta understand the scheme of the system, how it is meant to steal your wealth, how it is meant to dumb you down so that you don't, so that you make um, decisions that even though you may get short-term gratification out of it, right? There is no long-term benefit because you'll end up losing that home. You see all these. Look at these programmers. I always talk about these programmers, right? Get paid, 400,000, 500,000, upwards to $1 million, right? Working coding, programming, and guess what? Within the next 10 years, the vast majority of them will be out of work. You started seeing it happening now. Let's talk about Microsoft, right? Laying off thousands of programmers. Why? Because of AI. When they get you to build the very same things that's going to take your livelihood away from you, and while you're building these things, you never, even though they're telling you their intention, because their intention is not to integrate these things into society to benefit you and I within the society. It is to replace us. It's as simple as that. It is. This is the colonial mindset. Like I said, their minds never change. They pass on the same mindset to their offsprings. So it doesn't change, but they change us because they have the means, the resources, the expertise, the technology, right? To create the drugs and stuff like that to do exactly that. To do exactly that, right? I tell you, next time I go to McDonald's, I'm going to show you guys what they did in that McDonald's where you have kiosks. You'll see no register there, all right? So for every one of those kiosks, that was that in the past that was an employee. Okay, so you still don't want to listen? Go ahead. But like I said, you know, the reason why they give me these information, right? Why they give me these transmission to let me know the truth is because they want to see if you're going to listen or not. They want to see how dumbed down they've made you, that you will ignore people who tell you the truth. This is why, like I said, every couple of years you see these fashion designer come up with some racist shit, right? And what they do every couple of years is to gauge whether or not the psychological conditioning, right, the subconscious conditioning of our minds have accepted or is accepting these racist things that they do. And soon it's going to get to a point where there's going to be no pushback from you and I as black people, or as a black person, or if you're a white person, you're not um, a bigot, right? This is what I keep telling you. They do these things to test the conditioning of the society, and particular group of people within the society also. But everybody's manipulated. Understand that. Particularly, like I said, everybody's manipulated. If you're the working class, if you're the middle class, working poor, we're all manipulated. And we look at us as each other as the enemy. The only enemy here is white supremacy. That's and so white people have to get rid of that false narrative out of their mind. Learn your own history and see what happens. Learn your own history. Really go don't go by what they tell you, what Hollywood shows you. Go and learn your own history and understand that there were black kings in Europe. There were black people living in medieval time in Europe, the Renaissance in Europe. But Hollywood don't show you that. I remember back in the '90s there was a show, there was a movie with Martin Lawrence called Black Knight. He was the only black person in England. Okay, you'll see nobody else, right? Or you watch Robin Hood with was it Jamie Foxx? There's another Robin Hood with is there another with what's his name, Morgan Freeman, right? But we know that those of us who study and who understand true history know that there were a large population of black people in Europe, not only in Spain and Italy. For the 700 years the Moors ruled Spain and Italy. And again, these were not Arabs, right? One thing white people love to do is to whitewash black history. They love to do that. We know that, right? So we should, whatever they say, we take it with a grain of salt. For those of us who know, even genetics, because they'll lie about it too. They'll choose a certain ancient person that they have excavated and dug up and do a DNA test and say, okay, yeah, so the people look exactly like that. That's it. No, when we know the vast majority of the other remains, right, are black. You know what I'm saying? They lie. They lie about history. They How many of these white scientists recently have been caught lying in their research? So what they have done, and this is an agenda to destroy the credibility of science by the white religious fanatical whites, right? Right, the white religious fanatical right wing uh, uh, individuals ideology. These people will infiltrate every aspect. Like how they infiltrated psychiatry to learn how to do what? To learn how to manipulate you and I to becoming Christians. But that's their religion. That's their Bible, based off of lies, manipulation, deception, and that's who they are. If you grew up believing in lies, you've been taught lies, you believe in the lies. They're teaching you, as Shako's what is it? Shaka Amos says that if you grow up believing in a lie, being taught lies, they're conditioning you so that when you become an adult, you become a liar. All right, and most of us, because we're so religious, we have become liars and manipulators and deceivers. All right. So anyhow, I know it's a lot to say, but it's another one of my epic rants. All right. Talk to you guys in the next video.